Good evening, guys. Welcome to Saturday night. It is Pontificating with Pete on Revolutionary Change. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you all had a great Christmas if you didn't tune in for our special live stream on Thursday night. But we hope you're all doing well. And this is definitely one of those tricky weeks of the year where between Christmas and New Year's, you don't really know which day of the week it is. But it is Saturday, so that's why I'm here. And again, hope you're all doing well. We've got lots of wonderful stories to cover this evening. I shouldn't even say wonderful. We got a lot of shitty stories to cover, but we have to cover them because we are here trying to form a revolutionary change movement. Not just trying to get clicks, of course. We actually are committed to the cause, as we hope pretty much all of you that are here are as well. And so there are a lot of different things that we could start with tonight. And I contemplated what direction I wanted to go in, because there are a number of stories that, in this case, we could have either done it tonight or saved it from Monday with Jen. And there are obviously a couple of stories in particular that we are going to cover, but we are going to cover it on Monday. A lot of what's been transpiring right now, particularly with Nigeria, that's a big one. And of course, we are going to discuss that on Monday. And a lot of other machinations happening right now, including, I would assume that everybody here is probably familiar with what happened with our friend Amir, who is a comedian, a Palestinian comedian who we actually met in South Florida. I want to say it's probably at this point, it wasn't a year ago, but it wasn't that long ago either, or it wasn't that recent, I should say. So I want to say it was probably sometime last spring, I believe, is when we met him. And now, apparently, for going into someplace in, I think it was in the West Bank, perhaps somebody could correct me in terms of exactly where he was when this took place, but he was arrested by Israel. And luckily, he's free now. But that is a topic we are going to discuss on Monday. When you talk about censoring free speech, you're not allowed to say anything. So, of course, that's the trouble that we now have, is recognizing that while our channel has been doing well, they can yank the rug out from under us at pretty much any time. So we anticipate not being able to have a channel that's going to continue if at some point Google and the powers that be decide that we're getting a little too big for our britches. We already had one copyright strike. Does that mean we're going to get thrown in cuffs? Well, the cops have visited us already, so hopefully we don't end up like our friend Amir. And thank you, Miss Cooey. It was in the West Bank. Again, free speech, I thought, but evidently that doesn't exist in the most free democracy, or the only existing democracy in the Middle East, right? Not so much. And of course, this, like I said, it comes as no surprise. We already know what to expect from these guys. This is just one more example of the different levels of censorship that we are going to incur trying to speak truth to power. And so we have a few different people that have built their platforms by playing one side or the other, depending on where they stand politically. They have an ideology, they have a cause, they have an effort that they're trying to, or we'll just say an ideology that they're trying to push. And there's a number of them out there that I have seen where I am just flabbergasted that anybody thinks it's even worth listening to. And one of those people who apparently has a tremendously large channel, and I'm going to split this up into two parts. One part's going to be shitlib. The other part is going to be Zioscum. So that's how we're going to kick this off, because I don't want anybody to think that we're a channel that's only going to bash one side or the other. We are an equal opportunity basher of bad ideas. So in this case, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this guy, Nick Powers. Apparently that's his name. He's news to me. Not anybody that I've ever been. Shit lives in Zioscum. Well, that's what I said. Yes, it is unbelievable corruption, but remember, when you think about those that want to get paid, what is their primary motivation is that they want to make sure that no matter what happens, they're at least getting some coin in their account. No matter how many people have to suffer for it, it doesn't matter. Now, some people are, we'll just say, true believers in what they're saying. I mean, I do think that there are people that are true believers. They don't care how much it may hurt people or what that ideology ultimately represents. But in the case of this guy, Nick Powers, who apparently has a very substantial following. I had never heard of him before. I don't know who he is. I only happened to come across this when I opened up our TikTok account because I was going in to check out some of the clips that we had recently posted because we like to post them on other social media channels. We have to do it directly through TikTok as long as we still have the account. Not that we are trying to use TikTok because we all know what's happening. But in the case of this Nick Powers, here's a guy who is still going out there and is trying to sell us on the idea that all we have to do is just elect the Democrats. If we elect the Democrats, all the problems will go away. And here's his ingenious theory as to why that is the case.
Voting for the lesser of two evils if we haven't even tried it yet. Online leftists have gone so far with this that they're pretty much the living embodiment of this meme. Let's look through history real fast. The last time we had a Supreme Court that was the majority appointed by the Democrats was in 1969. Which, by the way, that's the very last time that Democrats had a majority in the House and the Senate, the Supreme Court, and the presidency. To put it in perspective, Republicans have had control over the House, Senate, presidency, and the Supreme Court twice, just under Trump. He has it right now in the current Congress, and he had it in 2017. Republicans get it all the time, but the last time Democrats had control like that was in 1969. You're not tired of voting for the lesser of two evils, you're tired of Republicans.
So what this genius is trying to suggest is that right now, we haven't had a Democratic supermajority since 1969. No, that's actually not true. We've had it several times since 1969. Had it under Carter, had it under Clinton, and had it under Obama. Now, if you ask me, there really isn't much to celebrate since then. And the suggestion that the Democratic Party is the same party from 1969, that nothing has changed within the Democratic Party. If we only got them back into power, we would somehow be out of this shithole that we're stuck in right now. It is possible that the Democrats are the reason we're stuck in this shithole to begin with. Is that not something that even dawned on him? That perhaps that's one of the main reasons why we are where we are? I'm just spitballing here, guys. I don't think I'm wrong. But this is the embodiment of what ends up happening. The algorithm will push one side or the other side, bashing the other side and vice versa. And in the case of Nick Powers, the guy has almost 600,000 followers on TikTok. When this clip showed up on my feed, it was the first clip that showed up. I don't follow any of this stuff. I just go directly to our account. And for whatever reason, this one popped. It's got 30,000 likes and hundreds of thousands of views. There are a lot of people out there who still don't get it. And I understand that there's a lot of people who are frustrated, who are afraid, especially with Trump being back in power and seeing all that he's doing regarding the economy, domestic and foreign, especially with Israel, and obviously in continuing the war in Ukraine, saber rattling now with China via Taiwan. Do we have like the shortest term memory? Does everyone have short-term memory? Does everyone forget how bad things were under Biden? Does everybody forget how absolutely over her head Kamala Harris was, and the fact that she was trying to outright Trump on Israel, among other policies, like law and order? But no, just elect the Democrats. That's how we're going to get out of this, guys. Haven't you figured that out yet? Just put Team Blue back in charge. But trust me, it gets worse.
And discarding the Supreme Court, the last time that Democrats had a majority in the House and the Senate and the presidency, it resulted in the 111th Congress, which is the most productive Congress since the 89th Congress.
So what he's implying is that the most productive being you passed a lot of legislation. So by that measure, just by passing legislation, you automatically are successful. That's what makes it good. He's referring to the Congress that was in place. The 111th Congress, I'm pretty sure, was the 2006 midterms. And then you had the first 2 years with Obama. So basically, this went on with the 111th and the 112th Congress, which started with, he's going to get to the policies. We'll get to that in a second. But this is what he's selling. He's selling this nonsense, that if we just put a supermajority of Democrats back in, we can pass a whole bunch of neoliberal, shitty legislation. So let him explain.
Democrats signed the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, you know, the Affordable Care Act.
Yes, we know about the Affordable Care Act. We know that it is even worse than what we had before. Why? Because it was a big sloppy hand job to big pharma and private insurance. The only good thing that truly came out of Obamacare was it the removal of pre-existing conditions for somebody to get coverage. That's it. But you take one step forward, you take 10 steps back, and now, because things have gotten so bad, you have enough people that are finally waking up to the reality that the only solution is single-payer healthcare. So you want to wax poetic about Obamacare, when in reality, all Obama had to do was a little arm twisting, just a little bit, just a slight amount of arm twisting to ensure that we got the public option. Forget single-payer healthcare. Obamacare is Romney Care from Massachusetts. We could have had a public option. But President Obama, like a lot of other people in Congress, wanted to be rich. Not just powerful, rich. And if he had dared implement the public option during his first 100 days, in which he clearly had the juice to get it done, he decided that his selfish desires and needs and wants were more important. And that's how we ended up here. What is so good about Obamacare? Even from its inception, what was so good about it? Yeah, you could say that they weren't extending the tax credits in various red states throughout the country. But again, this is the whole point about doing half measures. You're eventually going to still get stuck with a shit sandwich if you don't actually deliver on what the working class of this country actually needs, which is a single payer system. The removal of the for-profit middlemen in between us and our doctors. So for you to actually suggest that Obamacare was a good policy is a level of ignorance, naivete, and privilege all rolled into one. Congratulations. The Recovery Act, you think that's something to write home about? That was in response to what happened during the I can't even say it right. The subprime mortgage crisis that happened in 2007, 2008. So that was a response. What did they end up doing with that recovery package? They saved all the banks. Too big to fail? That's what that bill is. That's how we got here. But instead of letting them fail, we saved them. Saved them. Saved the economy. You didn't save shit. You saved Wall Street and Silicon Valley. That's what you saved. And all the while, the working people of this country got fucked. That's it. Could have done something important. You want to argue that Obama saving General Motors was a good thing? I'm willing to give you that one. You know, it depends on who you ask. But I'm at least willing to consider that. Bailing out the investment banks? Are you nuts? You probably don't even know this. You probably just spew these talking points because some NGO, Democratic Party adjacent organization paid you to say it. When you have that big of a following, you get your talking points. Just like Conservative Inc. gets theirs. You're celebrating that? He's not done.
The Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, which would be great if we could continue working on this. And
Dodd-Frank. Dodd-Frank? That's what you're celebrating? The legacy of Barney Frank, despite the fact that he was always regarded as a New England liberal and somebody who was a champion of social causes, especially because he was a gay man, here's what I'll remember him for. I'll remember him throwing Bernie Sanders under the bus for Hillary Clinton. That's what I'll remember. Just like Al Franken threw Bernie Sanders under the bus for Hillary Clinton. That's what your legacy is. It's unfortunate, but those are the breaks. Dodd-Frank, why don't we reinstate Glass-Steagall? Do you know that since 1999, when I removed Glass-Steagall and destroyed the entire economy of this country, there has not been a single Democratic Party candidate for any office other than Bernie Sanders who has mentioned Glass-Steagall, who has mentioned that this is a policy that we must enact if we are ever going to save ourselves from the investment banking system. When I first moved to Florida years ago, we had community banks. Now they're gone. You know why? Because of policies like Dodd-Frank. So way to go, Nick Powers. You really know what the fuck you're talking about.
By the way, all of that was done by the Democrats in less than 72 work days. They only had the supermajority for 72 days, and they did all of that.
Oh my God, what will we do if they had another 72 days? How much harder can they fuck us in the ass? I'd sure like to know. Or maybe that's how you like it, and that's why you say it. I cannot for the life of me understand how there are people who actually want to get in front of a camera and say these things for a paycheck. Do you have no shame, as once was said to Joe McCarthy? It's the same thing. Have you no shame? Or are you that stupid that you don't actually know? So it's one or the other. You're either hopelessly inept or you're deceptive. So which one is it? How many people here know who this guy is? I didn't know who he was, but I found out very quickly that he has got a massive following. And it was only by happenstance that his stupid ass video showed up on my feed. So congratulations. Now you're going to go viral in the opposite direction, hopefully. We cannot vote our way out of this. We can't do it. It's not going to, voting matters. And I'm not telling you that you shouldn't. And I think we should always be supporting candidates who are not bought by corporate special interests and are overwhelmingly being supported outside of the two-party system. Now, of course, there are always going to be exceptions to the rule. We understand that. But very rarely, like a Thomas Massey. That would be an example of a circumstance where we don't really have much of a choice. The system is set up the way that it's set up. Not that we want it this way. I would have no doubt that most people would probably agree with this, that we don't want this. Who would? I don't. But we play the cards that were dealt. That's the hard reality that a lot of people have failed to accept. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. When I hear people say we can still take over the Democratic Party, in what universe? Have you not seen what they're willing to do? They had an autopsy report with mealy-mouthed, meager Ken Martin, head of the Democratic Party, at the time of the Democratic National Committee from Minnesota. They were given their referendum, and they decided to can it. Now, there are many theories as to why they decided to do that, but I have my theory. And I'm pretty sure it's not a theory. It is what it is. It was determined that one of the biggest, if not the biggest issue at present when it comes to the Democratic Party and why it is bleeding support out its ears and its ass is because they support the state of Israel. and they're not going to stop. Under no circumstances are they going to stop. That is the hard lesson that most people just do not want to come to terms with. They do not want to accept that there is no coming back from this. The Democratic Party will cease to exist before they give up their support for Israel, just as they will not give up their support for corporate special interests and corporate money funding their party. And that's it. So for anybody who thinks that Nick Powers is your friend, trust me when I tell you, he isn't. He has a little bit more to say before we finish.
During that time. Wouldn't it be nice if we could pass meaningful legislation again? Well, we can't, because we'd much rather have the greater of two evils than vote for the lesser of them. You can't be.
So can you imagine actually being somebody who actually espouses a message of, man, if only we can vote for the lesser of two evils? That's what we have become reduced to. We have been reduced to these Democratic Party operatives suggesting, yeah, we suck. We know that. Vote for us anyway, because maybe the shit sandwich won't taste as bad. If that's what you're selling, everyone deserves the GOP forever. At some point, one must recognize that this system that we're stuck with, it's done. It's over. Do not resuscitate, as Jen likes to say. How could we? This is what they're selling. At the very end, he admits the truth. He says that he tells the truth. Yeah, we suck. But what choice do you have? I'll tell you what choice I have. The Democratic Party is dead. Remain dead. Do not resuscitate. And if you follow people like this, you're wasting your time. Do not listen to him, because whatever he's selling you is the same bullshit that anyone else in places like Conservative Inc., like the Jack Posobics and the Benny Johnsons of the world are going to sell you as well. Just get the GOP elected and everything will be just fine. No, it won't. So do yourselves all a favor and do not pass go with Nick Powers. And so I mentioned Powers because he's just one of several. But let's swing it to the other side. Now, here's a person that I have wanted to address for a very long time. I've never truly addressed him on the show. You guys know that I have mentioned Eyal Yakoby a time or two before. And if anybody follows social media, they know that there are certain Zionists that get their accounts boosted that have an unconscionably high level of sway in the arena of bad ideas. Most of them are bad, let's be honest. But in the case of Eyal Yakoby, you're talking about somebody who has come out of nowhere to apparently become one of the most influential people in all of conservative Zionist media. Now, one has to ask themselves, how does a 23-year-old get hundreds of thousands of followers, the following of the most high or upper echelon people in politics, including the president, as well as the richest man in the world? This doesn't happen by accident. No one ends up in these places because they get lucky. Not that high and not that fast. You know how long it took Jen and I to build this channel to 100,000 subscribers, but more specifically, how long it took Jen and I to catch our stride? 4.5 years. Eyal Yakoby miraculously became an influential voice in politics almost immediately after October 7th. Next thing you know, everybody sees him. And as JB points out, 100 tweets a day, that's quite an accomplishment. That means that all likelihood, he's tweeting 15 to 20 times an hour if he's online that often, which he probably is. But again, it pays. That's the point. His career is to spew the Zionist propaganda. I bring this up because I don't think people truly understand where he comes from, why he's influential. So I'm going to share with you a little tidbit about this man. But first, he's got a whirlwind of things to say, as he did at the Republican Jewish Congress caucus. You know, that event not too long ago where Mark Levin got up there, Ben Shapiro got up there, Randy Fine got up there, and kept talking about the importance of Israel, not the importance of America, the importance of Israel. Well, Eyal Yakoby had quite a few things to say too. You probably didn't see this one, but here's what he had to say.
As the founding fathers gathered on July 4th, 1776, to declare the birth of a new nation, they looked to the ancient stories of the Bible for inspiration.
Okay, so the fact that right off the bat, this guy is selling you on this idea that they look to Bible stories to inspire them to write the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. I don't know where the hell he's getting his talking points from. But rest assured, he's not the brightest bulb in the lamp, that's for sure.
Franklin envisioned the United States as a modern-day Exodus, with Moses parting the Red Sea to lead his people to freedom. Jefferson proposed for the Great Seal of the United States, the image of the children of Israel guided by a divine hand through the wilderness. America was David against the British Goliath. The Pilgrim's journey from Britain was the Israelites fleeing Egypt. America's manifest destiny was the Israelites conquering Canaan.
Is this guy out of his fucking gourd? Hear that one more time. One more time.
The Pilgrim's journey from Britain was the Israelites fleeing Egypt.
What's a good word? The audacity of this kid. I don't get it. I don't get how there's anyone who hears this and thinks, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. And as Jen is pointing out here, this is a kid who went to UPenn and now is doing grad school at Harvard. So one has to ask themselves, how could such a moron get into such a prestigious university? Well, guess what? His father, Eyal Yakoby, he is the chair of the biology department at Rutgers University. You may have heard of that school. It's my alma mater. And he was the chair first at Rutgers Camden. He's been the chair over at Rutgers New Brunswick for a while, but considering the trajectory of Eyal's career, it's pretty obvious that his father, in his haste, pulled some strings and was able to get him into UPenn. This is a kid who grew up in Princeton, one of the most affluent suburbs in New Jersey and probably the country. But here's another little tidbit about Mr. Yakoby and his father, Nir. They're not from this country. Well, Eyal probably was born here, but his father wasn't. He's from Israel. And they are dual citizens. But if you were to ask them, kind of like Trump, listen, if we ask Miriam Adelson, where does her loyalty lie? I asked her one time, really important question. What do you love more, America or Israel? She didn't want to answer that. Well, guess what? If you were to ask them where their loyalty lies, they might lie, but we all know where their loyalties lie. With Israel, not with this country. And even if they said they did, we don't want people like this at all.
America's manifest destiny was the Israelites conquering Canaan. When delegates shuffled into Carpenter's Hall for the opening session of the Continental Congress, the first prayer was Psalm 35. The American Republic was born to the music of the Hebrew Bible. The tune of shared values has been shattered by the rampant anti-Semitism that has taken root on college campuses.
And we wonder why. Why has this supposed anti-Jew hatred taken over on college campuses? Could it be a genocide? No, that can't be possible because there is no such thing as a genocide, just like there's no such thing as Palestinians. Am I right? Yakoby, made up language, made up name. And this man, boy, his age might indicate that he's a man, but he's really a boy. His whole disposition, even in the face of knowing full well what people think of him, because they do question, even somebody who may support the state of Israel is looking at this guy and thinking, man, he really doesn't give a shit about America, does he? No, he doesn't. And he's telling you in his words. Pure and simple.
On October 7th, Israel was attacked. Since October 7th, Jewish students across this nation have been under attack.
They just like to make things up, and he's no different. Let me count the ways I can make things up. And as we have seen time and again, particularly when there were the campus protests, which started at Columbia because it was again, Columbia is an Ivy League institution. So naturally, it's going to attract a lot of attention. There were operatives for the state of Israel, for the Mossad, all over the campus, including the girl who we've pointed out time and again, her name is slipping me, but claim that they stabbed me in the eye with their Palestinian flag. That was a lie, and the person turned out to be an op. Now, here's another little tidbit about Eyal Yakoby that you probably didn't know. This is the student who led the class action lawsuit against UPenn, Columbia, and Harvard about anti-Semitism. That's him. He's the one who did it. You would think that there would be probably some very powerful people backing him up to do something so audacious. Wouldn't you think so? Absolutely. So therein lies why he's talking like this. But trust me, he's got a lot more to say.
My name is Eyal Yakoby. I'm a recent graduate from the University of Pennsylvania. No clapping. I am a proud Jew, but first and foremost, I am a proud American.
No.
When I enrolled at Penn, I expected an education, not a bomb threat against the Center for Jewish Life on campus.
Forgetting to mention that it was actually one of the Zios who did the bomb threat. But, facts can't get in the way of feelings when it comes to the Zioscope.
Not a swastika spray painted inside a campus building. Not
proven once again that this was done by the Zios themselves. Pretty much every circumstance where a swastika has been found, whether on a person's garage, whether in front of a campus like the Hillel or in front of a synagogue, as it turns out, they're all false flags. Every last one of them.
Not the Chabad being vandalized, nor a student breaking into Hillel yelling F the Jews. In the spring, my classmates and professors erected an encampment in the heart of Penn's campus. My peers waved the PFLP flag while chanting, quote, "All Qassam make us proud." As this was happening, students remarked, quote, "Burn filthy Zio."
Hey, I'll do you one better. Remove all filthy Zio from the United States. Get him out. Because if anybody is circumventing the will of the American people, it's people like him. We can't do enough for the state of Israel, as we have seen. And in the case of this dumb fuck, he's a victim. Don't you know that? I don't feel safe. That's him. He did that. He stood in front of a podium in Washington, D.C. and said, I don't feel safe. You know what? You shouldn't. Because you are advocating for the mass murder of the indigenous people, of the land that you claim is yours, but it's really not. You're just a fake. Everything about you is fake, which is why you project. And everything that you have been fed by your scumbag father, because we all know that he plays a heavy hand in this, you come to this country and you take advantage of every single conceivable advantage that you have. You grew up in a wealthy suburb. You went to the finest schools. You had your father twist some arms to get you into an Ivy League school with that brain dead ass of yours. And now you're at another Ivy League school for postgraduate work. And what are you doing? You're putting lawsuits up against these schools, not because they are wealth hoarders and supporters of the military-industrial complex. Oh, no. No, what are you doing? You're finding a way to line your pockets by claiming that the school doesn't love Jews enough. I mean, how could you not laugh at this? How could you not? Who in the fuck does this kid think he is? I'll tell you who he thinks he is. A very powerful Zionist. And unfortunately, in the current structure of our country and of our political system, especially in Washington, D.C., he is important. He's not important to the average person. The average person don't even know who the hell he is. But those that are paying attention, they know who he is. He's not as impressive as he thinks he is. But believe me, he has a sense of arrogance to him that just comes straight out of his pores. He probably practices in the mirror, loves to hear himself speak. Okay. Everything's good now for him. But unlike a lot of other Zios that maybe are a little smarter in terms of keeping their head down and their mouth shut, he is not that intelligent. And so as this expose will prove, he may be riding high now, but in the not too distant future, he may be running for cover or running straight out of this country. Either way, he's not going to remain at the top forever. And frankly, he's probably not going to remain there for long.
And keep protesting louder. Hamas just made a statement, and they're with us. American universities, once revered for their pursuit of knowledge, have adopted a syllabus of bigotry, violence, and harassment. To quote Reagan, there is no safety in appeasement. And right now, our universities have become experts in nothing other than appeasement. Whether it's Trump's executive order combating anti-Semitism or the critical work being done in Congress, these are not just mere measures. They are critical actions to protect our campuses and students and uphold the principles of liberty and justice for all.
What are they protecting you from exactly? That's the big question. What exactly are they protecting you from? Who's coming after you? The only people who are coming after you are the ones seeking justice for the people that you are giving your entire platform credence to doing their mass murder. You've been doing this since day one. You are a mass murderer by proxy. You lie. You have lied repeatedly about a lot of people. You have lied about the grapes. You have lied about the bombs. You've lied about the intentions. You also forget to mention that you have a very close relationship with Netanyahu and the Kushners. I would think that that information is probably pretty important, that the average person would want to know that. Now they know. You're not that special. You're a joke. You are a joke. The one thing we've learned about these Zio scum, especially people like Yakoby, they're not very good at this. They're not winning new people to their cause. In fact, they're losing as many as possible every time someone who may still be on the fence isn't aware. But once they hear him, once they see what a pathetic poser and pussy this guy is, how the hell could you support this cause? But hey, he's going to continue to pontificate about how unsafe the rich Zios truly are.
When professors and students in the United States openly support Hamas, an organization that explicitly calls for the murder of every Jew, it is not that our students just feel unsafe. They are inherently unsafe. Who better to uphold Washington's promise to give bigotry no sanction than Representative Stefanik and Chairwoman Fox as they lead the charge in holding universities accountable?
Wow. Referencing Elise Stefanik. How'd that work out for her? Because things just took a really interesting turn for Elise Stefanik, didn't they? This was a lady who was riding high, thought she was going places in politics, really did. She really thought she was going places. And guess what? Now she's going home. She's not running for governor, and she can't get her congressional seat back. And it was all for Israel. If she decided, if she was smart, she's a schmuck, but if she was smart, she would have been able to keep her head down and continued what she was doing, and she'd still be in Congress right now. But nope, she got a little too big for her britches, or as Jen likes to say, she flew a little too close to the sun, and she overthought everything that she was doing, and now the mighty have fallen. And Yakoby will be getting his comeuppance soon enough as well, I have no doubt.
Or Chairman Smith and Jordan echoing Lincoln's vision of malice toward none as they ensure that radical domestic organizations are held accountable. And Speaker Johnson, who on April 24th traveled to Columbia University declaring neither Israel nor Jewish students on this campus will ever stand alone.
Oh.
Together, they stand as guardians of our nation's core values. In the words of Stefanik, the fight against anti-Semitism is a fight for the soul of our nation.
The fight for the soul of our nation is excommunicating every last remnants of the Zion state from our country. And that requires a revolution. So when we say revolutionary change, it's multi-layered for sure. But the Zion state and our bought and paid for government by that Zion billionaire class and state, there is a reckoning that is coming. Yakoby is one of many. But in his case, he represents a very dangerous component of the Zion state. He's young. Most of these Zion sycophant scumbags, they're all as old as Mark Levin. But this guy's young. And it's certainly conceivable that because of his ego and where he's from, that he'll run for office at some point and he'll have a lot of money and a lot of support behind him. But again, that's what's in the here and now. But tomorrow could be a lot different. It can change at any moment. That's what they're forgetting. They think this can last forever. It's not going to. It is incumbent upon all of us to share this story, this message, and let people know how guys like this end up where they are. He has a little bit more to say.
Last month, Columbia Students for Justice in Palestine released a statement. And yes, they demonized Israel, but they also included that they are, quote, fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization. You know, these so-called anti-war protests did not start today. They started on October 7th, celebrating the massacre, celebrating the rape, murder, and maiming of Jews.
Boy, he seems pretty convinced that that's exactly what happened. No, the fact of the matter is, this has been going on since 1948, and there are many instances to prove otherwise. I wonder what would happen if somebody brought up the USS Liberty to this fuckhead, even though it was something that took place probably before even his father was alive. But nonetheless, they really do convince themselves that everything started on October 7th. That is their ideology. You know, Katie Halper and Russell Dobular did a great clip the other day on Katie's show regarding the similarities between Zionism and Scientology. You have to be completely disconnected from reality to believe in either ideology. And one common element that is mutually agreed upon between Zionism and Scientology is that if people do not agree with your ideology, they're a suppressive person and they must be dealt with or cut them off altogether. So it stands to reason why Yakoby is spewing this shit.
My own classmates and professors at Penn organized a rally on October 8th where a speaker stated, quote, "I salute Hamas for a job well done." The State Department even confirmed that the IRGC is directly involved in the terror mobs on our streets. So no, these protesters do not have a point. Waving the flags of Hamas and Hezbollah is not a natural reaction. We need leaders who will unequivocally call out these individuals for what they truly are, and that is supporters of radical terrorism.
Well, I was actually surprised that he didn't say radical Islam. But no, he didn't say that. He just said radical terrorism. I am not in the least bit surprised. But as we've discussed, they live in an insulated bubble. What seems radical and lunacy to the average person who's been paying attention to this massacre for the past 2+ years, it is abhorrent what he's saying. But to those within his ideological makeup, they think he's preaching the gospel. They think what he's talking about is spot on, incredible. How could he be wrong? He's not wrong. He's a genius. Look at this mensch of a Jew boy. Isn't he sweet? Isn't he going places? I want to play one more small clip for you guys. This is a very short clip, but it speaks to the disconnect as well as the audacity that this kid has been spewing nonstop for the last 2+ years.
Have a very realistic conversation of what is the future for Jews at certain universities. And in my opinion, if people have the financial means, is to send your kids to schools that do protect Jewish students. And there are schools that exist that are protecting Jewish students, whether it be UT Austin, Vanderbilt, Emory, Duke University, University of Florida. And those schools should become the new Ivies. The term.
Okay. I don't know if this is an example of caucasity, but I believe that the lack of wisdom from this fool and his complete disrespect for the history of higher education, why certain schools are Ivy, why others are not. And the idea that we make them Ivy institutions because of how pro-Israel and pro-Jewish they are, and you wonder why people hate Jews. And I want to conclude with this point about this story. For those people who know who Myron Gaines is, and he's had that podcast that has done pretty well. I believe that they are based out of South Florida. But when you run a podcast like Fresh and Fit, and the whole concept behind it to me is not anything that I would ever watch or ever pay attention to, I did notice that he decided to go after Yakoby on social media. Called him a kike, told him to get the F out of the country, et cetera, et cetera. And I felt, because I never get involved in this stuff, but I felt an obligation to say something to him about that. And this is why I don't trust many people in this sphere. If you're using that type of language, you're feeding the cannon fodder that they want. The only people that you're helping when you use that language are Zionists. And I have to wonder, as I've pointed out to several people, starting with the likes of Dan Bilzerian and Jake Shields, when they use the language that they use, are they really trying to dismantle the Zio state? Or are they using the hatred towards Israel, and by extension, the hatred that is mounting towards Jews, to line their pockets? Well, when you consider the type of podcast that Fresh and Fit is, it wouldn't surprise me in the least if this is all for show. They may be correct about the premise, but if you're incorrect about the strategy, you will lose. You will only continue to facilitate the genocide against the Palestinians, the expansion of the Greater Israel Project, and we're still stuck at square one. Either you get right on how this has got to go down, or we're all going to lose. There is a way to go after these people. And it starts by separating Jews from Zionists. If you can't do that, then you don't actually give a fuck about the Palestinians and whether or not we end this Zion state once and for all. It is imperative that we get it right for the sake of Palestinians and for the sake of humanity. Pay attention to who's doing it the right way and who's doing it for the money. If you're enjoying this conversation so far, which we hope you are, we hope you'll consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. As you know, we recently passed 103,000 subscribers. We are trucking up the ladder as we so often do. We'll hit some high points, some low points. It's like a roller coaster. You just got to hang on. 103,273 subscribers as of tonight. So if you haven't smashed that like button yet, please make sure that you do. Please make sure that you share the stream. We have been teetering on possibly getting over 1,000 live viewers tonight. That's a magic number for us. We definitely want to hit it. So if you guys can help us out, we really appreciate any and all support that you can provide. We of course, are very appreciative of any support that you guys can provide. But of course, we do have some super chatters. We want to get to them right now. Elaine Oddsocks, thank you for the £2 I wasn't sure if that was a pound or a euro. Thank you very, very much from the UK. We really appreciate you being here. Monica Soler with the $4.99. When R's are in power, the Dems' track record is to resist. This plays a huge factor in passing policies. R's will vote with Dems, though. Like I said, they are two sides of the same bird, two wings of the same bird. That's basically what they are. So this whole red-blue divide, it's all bullshit. Stick to individual policies and fight on those lines. That's what we need to do. If you're not doing that, then you're playing right into the broken system, and we have to stop doing that. Jim Talib with the $5. Great to see you, my friend. Thank you very much for your contribution. And the Skos Assassin with the £5. I'm digging that profile picture. Yakoby is either a liar or a clown. He could be both, you know. The founding fathers were Freemasons. In fact, from the same lodges as their British counterparts. You know, the one thing that he brought up during his statement, which I thought was incredibly ridiculous, was he invoked God when referencing Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, two atheists who had appreciation for religion, but they were not practicing. That is kind of like a known thing, especially about Thomas Jefferson. But hey, that's all Zionists do. They lie. How do you know they're lying? Their lips are moving. So I agree, 1,000%. And that should not come as any surprise. What we have seen, and will continue to see, the level of censorship and crackdown on everything that we're doing. And I mean everything. There is no rhyme or reason why we're stuck in this predicament other than the obvious. You speak out against the Zio state, you will get your comeuppance if you get into their crosshairs, which is why we are fully prepared that there is the inevitable prospect that our channel will get shut down. We are a Free Palestine, anti-Israel channel. Anyone who follows our channel has been following it and knows what our universal message has been. We stand with Palestine. We stand with liberation of the working class, and we stand for revolutionary change. So, without question, we are asking for trouble. And so we must be prepared for it to come. I bring this up because before we get to the two main stories of tonight, I want you all to remember that this is what we deal with on a regular basis. Censorship is how you get people that do this for a career to stay in line. Carl Cameron, and I believe this is from C-SPAN. Here's what he had to say about the Zio state.
Story, which was denounced by the pro-Israel lobby in this country as anti-Semitic and biased and inaccurate. Much of what we've reported has now been reported all over the world because the documents that I used and was careful to protect, because some of it was considered classified and secret at the time, have now appeared virtually all over the world, corroborating our story.
Yes. So, as you can see, Fox News series on Israeli spying in the U.S. in December of 2001 was confirmed. The dancing Israelis on 9/11 were confirmed. How? There's video footage of them. They were there to witness the event. But as we have seen, censorship goes hand in glove with putting a lid on all of this. That's what they do. Getting stories canned, kind of like Barry Weiss getting the CCOT story canned. That's what happens now. At the time, one story was considered a big problem. Today, it's as if every story gets canned. And this is a Fox News composite, not some liberal rag, they went to the heart of the problem with the direct connection between the United States and Israel on 9/11. As Jen has been saying quite a bit lately, and I am piggybacking off of her comment of the call is coming from inside the house. What they're telling you is what happened is the complete opposite of what really went down.
Of the world, because the documents that I used and was careful to protect, because some of it was considered classified and secret at the time, have now appeared virtually all over the world, corroborating our story. There's a report that was circulated, it has now been disclosed by the DEA, that reported that over the course of a year and a half, numerous federal agencies had encountered individuals who refer to themselves as Israeli art students, essentially visiting these facilities, military installations, FBI, DEA, INS, both the publicly listed addresses as well as some that are not made public, and those particular facilities are intended to be kept secret. And they began to ask questions and attempt to sell their art. And we reported that this was a dynamic that had been described by government documents as an intelligence gathering operation.
Which, of course, it was. You know, anytime something seems off, there's probably a reason for that. Is it reasonable to surmise, for example, that Mr. Yakoby is an agent of the Mossad? I don't think so. There's too many obvious components to what's going on here to suggest otherwise. What we're dealing with is a complete systemic takeover of our political and economic system. They've taken over Congress. They run the banks. By that measure, they run the whole fucking thing. So when they find a story that they don't like, they're going to kill it. This is why Mr. Ellison had to take over CBS News. This is why Mr. Ellison is now attempting a hostile takeover of Warner Brothers. And with it, CNN. They want it all. And since we do not enforce laws in this country anymore, and don't give me the bullshit that it's because it's the Democrats who are not in power, we're overrun by oligarchs. Zionist billionaire oligarchs, like Leslie Wexner, who ran, financed, and controlled the entire Epstein operation for decades and still is walking scot-free. When you see it for what it really is, you can't unsee it. There is no going back to sleep. There is no sense of normalcy in this broken system ever again. Now we're on a train that is not going to stop until we bust through the broken establishment and make it no more. There's no putting on the brakes now. We have left the station, and we're not stopping until we get to that revolutionary destination.
Following that particular story, we then described the U.S. intelligence community's grave concerns that our civilian telecommunications are compromised and vulnerable to intelligence gathering, because many of the companies that provide services in our telephone calling are owned by or closely aligned with Israel, and that they have been occasionally investigated by our federal government for tapping or taking information from our telecommunications for the purposes of intelligence. And finally, that there is a concern in our government that the way in which we actually conduct wiretapping is also potentially vulnerable to compromise and intercept. Because
now, he just brought up a great point, because as you can see, this is a throwback clip. Now, one of the things that we have talked about at length on this channel, yes, we all know Larry Silverstein is probably the mastermind behind 9/11 in terms of the conduit connection between the U.S. and Israel, and of course, the person who owned the World Trade Center. Now, that being said, when you think about all the different policies that get passed over the years, in particular in response to the war on terror, and you think about our civil liberties being removed. It was always intentional. They always look for a reason to take away our rights, which is why everyone at this point is convinced that everything that happens is the result of a false flag. We have become, in many ways, a police state. The only reason we haven't become a completely overt police state is because a significant portion of this country is armed. And if we weren't, well, my guess is you would have the National Guard marching through the streets, all streets of this country. That's what we're looking at. And when we think about what's been taken from us, all in the name of security. But as Ben Franklin once said, and perhaps the most important line or memorable quote from his life, of which he had many, but when he said, "Those who would give up liberty for security deserve neither," he was right. We have been a habitually propagandized nation for far too long. And we look back on this now and realize just how bad it was at the time that it was happening. But when there's chaos happening left and right, you don't have a moment to slow down and realize what's being taken from you. We do know now. But what if we knew that? And how do we use what we know now to make sure that what happened then doesn't happen again? How do we get out of this? Well, I think we're learning that this is a class war and nothing more. Once you come to that realization, the left, right, red, blue, conservative, liberal, etc. divide, it's just a construct to keep us divided so we don't deal with the actual problems that are facing our daily lives. Our job on this channel is to ensure that that doesn't happen.
Some of the companies involved with the manufacturing of that equipment are Israeli, and that they've never been tested for vulnerabilities, and that too has been investigated as a potential threat.
Did anyone tell you to kill the story?
What happened was we did put the transcripts of my story on the internet, and after a period of several days it was taken down off the internet as what I've been told was merely to make available for a huge deluge of war-related material.
There you go. We find ourselves, as a result of policies of yesteryear happening today, and we were not smart enough to deal with then. I have said that the worst domestic president of our lifetime, of this generation, was Bill Clinton. And the worst foreign policy president of this lifetime was George W. Bush. Remember the Patriot Act, which took away our civil liberties. That was constructed under Clinton and passed under Bush. NAFTA was constructed under Reagan and Bush, primarily Bush, and passed under Clinton. It's like one big circular firing squad. You have to have the courage to see the forest through the trees. It's a dangerous world out there. We get it. But collectively, we have to work together. It's the only way. So when somebody asks me, am I willing to break bread with certain people in order to achieve that ultimate goal of what ultimately is going to amount to some type of a revolution in this country? I agree that there are many things left to be desired when it comes to the likes of Nick Fuentes. But unless we collectively take control of what's going on right now, Fuentes, despite the fact that he probably is an op of some kind, is going to continue to ascend up the ladder. the opening that is given to him by so many, even when he says things that make you question, is he really in favor of making revolutionary change? Or is he just saying it because it's catchy and it pays well? Well, when he insists that Israel had nothing to do with what happened to Charlie Kirk, I am the first to say that that's enough. There was a major issue that I thought we could collaborate on. He proved unequivocally that he wasn't on board the way that he needed to be. So I don't trust him. But his stock is going to continue to ascend up the ladder, and for good reason. Because when Joe Rogan and Shane Gillis talk about him in this capacity, it's obvious that his star is going to continue to shine bright.
Yeah. You got anybody in mind?
Fuentes.
Nick Fuentes? He could probably win in a few years.
Hold on, let's talk.
Listen, he couldn't have existed before, right? 10, 20 years ago, couldn't have existed. Now, super popular. What's 20 years from now look like? You know, maybe someone like that can win.
Well, we'll see.
It's fascinating to watch that there's like a whole group of people that feel very unrepresented in the world, and especially like young men. And here you got this young guy with a very high verbal IQ, and he also does a lot of shit posting, a lot of talking shit, a lot of trolling, says women shouldn't be allowed to vote, says wild shit. And that Piers Morgan thing is like, bro, that was like an expert sparring with someone who thought they were an expert.
Sure.
So he's referencing the conversation that happened between Piers Morgan and Nick Fuentes, where Fuentes admitted that Israel's ideology is his own in terms of his belief in white supremacy. Piers Morgan didn't know what to say. You see, he just turns it back on them. Like I said, I don't question Nick's talent. He's got a lot of it. I do question his authenticity, which I hope everybody would. But you have to be able to see these people coming before anybody else does, or the consensus does. I saw Gavin Newsom coming 20 years ago. I knew 20 years ago that that guy was going to run for president and be a viable candidate to win. Now, I don't think he'll win, but he's still viable to at least get the Democratic Party nomination. All the way back when he was mayor of San Francisco, I knew where that guy was going. I could see as soon as they plucked Buttigieg out of obscurity that they were going to push him. And they did. I don't think anybody anticipated Trump or Bernie having the impact that they did. But it's obvious that eventually they're going to push somebody like AOC. Perhaps they'll push Fuentes. But we're entering a whole new world now, where somebody like Nick Fuentes is being talked about as a presidential candidate. I mean, we are upside down and inside out. This is idiocracy come to life. But that's Rogan for you. Rogan likes to stir the pot too. Don't kid yourself.
Like they're playing two totally
I
different
agree.
games.
And it's also the thing that people try to get Fuentes on is that he's still funny as fuck.
It's funny.
So that's where you're in a lot of trouble.
When he hits him, do you think you made jokes about the Holocaust? He goes, too soon? Like, dude.
Yeah.
And you could see
He's wild.
You could see Piers going, oh fuck.
Bro, when he was like, me mom died. I was like, holy shit.
Bro, he got hit. He got hit with a missile on that one. Too soon? Too soon was like, oh my God.
I bring this up again because, as we have seen, these particular individuals that catch what's happening in terms of momentum, there is a reason that there is this fervor for somebody like Fuentes. It's just obvious why this is happening. And remember what I said earlier about revolutionary language and what that means and the importance of how it's used. When you think about the people that have large platforms, and I mean truly large platforms, impactful platforms, there is very few people that I can think of that are using their platform, that are using the R word. Very few of them are using it. In fact, I really can't think of anybody that would be considered left populist that's truly going down that path, recognizing this moment and what is going to happen. But for some reason, when you cede that much political real estate to somebody like Fuentes, then you get this.
Sent $20. Do you think we can vote ourselves out of this?
No, stupidest question fucking ever. If you ever ask that question, you should just shut the fuck up and die.
Now, whether or not that is intended to be a joke or not, you have Fuentes saying unequivocally, we cannot vote our way out of this. Meanwhile, we have a lot of other people in all walks of politics, more so on the Democratic side than the Republican side at this point, anyway, at least it would seem that way. They're all caught up in who's going to be the next presidential candidates? Who's going to? Are you supporting Jasmine Crockett or James Tallarico for an inevitable loss for the U.S. Senate in the state of Texas? Like, that's stuff that's important to them. Meanwhile, somebody like Fuentes is saying, "You think you can vote your way out of this?" You're giving him so much opportunity to build an empire. Are people that afraid to say what needs to be said? Now, again, it's certainly possible that this is just one big op. But Fuentes is saying what so few others are willing to say. We are living in a revolutionary moment, which calls for revolutionary action. And that is recognizing that while voting does matter, it doesn't solve the problem, and it never will. How come he's saying that? Why is he saying that and so few others are saying it?
No offense, Merry Christmas. Like, Merry Christmas, but like, that is like the one question. It's like, tell me you're not capable of critical thinking without telling me you're not capable of critical thinking. Are we going to vote our way out of this? It's a question that doesn't even mean anything. No one is prescribing. That doesn't mean anything. No one is prescribing voting our way out. First of all, voting our way out of what exactly? All problems. All peoples in all times have had political, economic, and social problems. We're never getting out of all of our problems. We have a set of problems, and most of them will not be solved. We'll not get out of them. We'll have to figure out a way to adapt. And some are solvable and some are not solvable. And some are solvable in a way where we have to be practical or bide our time, like whatever. Are we going to vote? And no one's saying like it's all just about voting. They just vote harder. No one is saying that other than like Republicans, I guess. But no, society is made up of people. It is organized through corporations, government, other entities. And as long as that is the case, we just need to be the decision makers.
Now, what could he possibly mean by decision makers is the big question. His form of revolution, I have no doubt, is a lot different than what we would have in mind. Nick Fuentes has a massive ego. He also has a lot of different issues that he projects on other people. What those are, I can't say for certain. What I do know is that he's exceptionally charismatic, and it is easy to see why people listen to him. Last week, he said that he agrees with us invading Venezuela and taking over their oil reserves. Monroe Doctrine, Manifest Destiny. control the Western Hemisphere. He said that. Doesn't seem really America first now, does it? It seems imperialist. But also, you have somebody who is cognizant of what is going on globally. BRICS is a real thing. And so in his mind, let's just control what we can within a reasonable distance of our borders. Fuentes sees himself, I don't want to say he's like Nero, but he sees himself as some type of a ruler of sorts. I mean, he's got a name for his followers, the Groypers. If we don't get right about revolution and fast, it's going to be just like 2016 all over again. You're either going to get a peaceful revolution with Bernie, or you're going to get a violent one with Trump. And so here we are at the precipice of some type of revolutionary change. And the person who's calling for it is Nick Fuentes. That can be very dangerous. So collectively, we have to recognize this moment. There is no going back. So decide how that future is going to look.
The problem is people are so fixated on the act of voting. They are fixated far less on the act of making a decision. And that is where we want to be, in the position of a decision maker. Now, someone who is elected can be a decision maker, but not all the decision makers are elected. And it is easier to elect some decision makers than others. And it's about what you do with it also. So it comes back down to, we really just need the best people to get as much power as possible. We need.
So who does he perceive as being the best people to get the most power possible? That's some dangerous language right there. I want you to hear that again.
And it's about what you do with it also. So it comes back down to, we really just need the best people to get as much power as possible.
Who are the best people, Nick Fuentes? Who would you be referring to? I sure would like to know what you're referencing. And why would you want somebody to get the most amount of power possible? Whatever happened to things like states' rights? Remember that one? Whatever happened to local political discourse, economic discourse? What about the policies that could actually help the average person? But no, what do we have? We have a person who is fortifying his positions on the chessboard and figuring out how he's going to take as much power as possible. Hala, I am in favor of that, but I don't trust Fuentes. I give credit where credit's due. You don't know me very well, Mary Lamb. We are doing what we have to do to help facilitate this change. But the person who controls the steering wheel is very important. Now, I'm not saying there is a one-size-fits-all person that can do that. All I'm saying is I don't trust Fuentes to drive the car. That doesn't mean that he can't be part of the movement, begrudgingly, as it may sound. There is that influence that can be brought to dismantle the Zio state, which is the big component here that we are trying to push forward. But if he's in control, That's a very dangerous prospect and one that we should not be looking to do. No matter how bad we may want out of what we're currently in, there are ways that this can get worse. So keep that in mind.
We need to harness as much of our human capital as possible by casting a broad net, getting the message out, red pilling as many people in the hopes that there's a bucket, maybe 1% that are very elite. We need to groom them. We need to propel them to the highest station that we can. We need extraordinary people to get resources, and gradually over time, it's an effort across society. We can make things the way we want them to be. But this like, are we going to vote our way out of this? You should just like bury yourself alive in your backyard because you're a helpless, fucking stupid child. Just if that's your question, forget it.
Dennis
Forget
Roy sent
everything.
$25.
So the helpless child says the other person's the helpless child. At least that's what I heard. Do I think Fuentes is influential? Yes, he's very influential. He's got he's got his people in here. Now, I don't agree with that, but it's easy to understand why people gravitate to him. If you can't see his talent, then you don't understand politics. He's extremely talented and he's extremely charismatic. And it doesn't matter how, we'll just say, lacking when it comes to the opposite sex, whatever the reasoning may be. I mean, you could just be inexperienced, uncomfortable. There's a lot of reasons. I mean, there are men who simply don't feel comfortable around women. That's a thing. But overall, he is a voice for a lot of people that have been failed by this system. Now, that's not to say that his intentions are to do right by humanity, but he understands their pain very well. And a lot of people gravitate to him. So when he says that we can't vote our way out of this, he's implying revolution. When he says what he says about the state of Israel, what he commented on, again, when I comment on Fuentes, like I comment on anybody, the goal is to be substantive on all topics. I don't need to get into the gossip side when he bitches about Ben Shapiro. That's our job. We'll do it ourselves. But when he talks like this, you should listen, because this is what matters. As I said, he's fortifying his positions. He fully intends to make a lot of big moves going forward. And there's going to be a chasm that's open. He's going to continue to build an empire. If he is the only person, and Skinny, that could very well be correct. I'm not disagreeing with you. But as I said, when you're that charismatic, a lot of people overlook a lot of the shortcomings. He's got a lot of people backing him up. And he could very well be a Fed. I don't know. Maybe he is. But Angela's absolutely correct. We don't get out of this by infighting. Don't work. Too much riding on the line. But like I said, if we're heading for a revolutionary moment, be very cautious about who is going to control the wheel or who's going to take the wheel. Do you want Nick Fuentes controlling it? He's going to have a voice no matter what. He will have a voice and he will have an impact. But if he is the person who's in charge, it's not going to end well. So we are where we are. Jen and I are going to do what we can with our small but mighty channel to help continue building up this network. I agree 1,000%. I am behind Thomas Massie all the way. I am America first. What is America first? What does that mean? America first means the United States of America. No matter who you are or what part of the country you're from, we are Americans, and we are in a revolutionary moment where we have to take back our country. This is not the land of the free and the home of the brave anymore. This is a country of, by, and for corporate special interests. If you are America first, then you believe in the dismantlement of those that have brought the working class of this country to its knees. We must do what is necessary to facilitate this change that is going to come, and it's going to be ugly. We need a universal healthcare system so that people are not dependent on corporate special interests for their livelihood and for the ability to stay alive. Cut out the corporate special interest middlemen. End it forever. We need a system where we are competing on the global stage with manufacturing and of various of different types of jobs in tech, even in energy. I'm a huge proponent of nuclear power. Keep in mind that we need tuition-free trade schools so that people can learn a skill and we can pay them to be productive members of society. Did you know that for the average dollar we invest in education, higher education, $7 goes back into the economy? Did you know that? We have to break the safety valve that the super rich have on blocking a truly universal system when it comes to our taxation. We are being buried by inflation, and those with the levers of power are paying nothing. And they don't believe in the United States. They believe in a global economy, hence the globalists, hence the New World Order. Klaus Schwab. That's not America first, but that's what's in charge. So what's next? How about the fact that we have 800 that we know of military bases all over the country, all over the world, excuse me. Do you know who's second? Yeah, it's China. Do you know how many they have? About 15. Do you know how many Russia has? About 8. We spend $1 trillion to trillion with a T every year on paper for the MIC. General Eisenhower has been, or mentioned this in his farewell address in January 1961, and it has only gotten exceptionally worse since then. And I live in perhaps the most military-driven congressional district in the country. And let me assure you, a substantial portion of these young men and women, they're just trying to make a life for themselves. That's the biggest impetus to join the military. You think they want to go off to war when they're probably well aware as much as we are about what's going on right now? But that level of desperation pushes them in that direction. Packwoman, I mean this in the most gentle way possible. You know not of what you speak. America first is caring for the least of these. America first is respecting somebody who is as progressive as they are libertarian, is respecting somebody who is as liberal as they are conservative. America first is recognizing that it is the system. No one is going to agree on every issue. It will not be universal. But if we can agree on why the system is broken, then that's a big start. That's how we get where we're trying to go. Thank you, Ryan. I love this country. I am very proud to be an American. I know how fortunate I am to be from this country. And I also recognize that it is the duty as an American to change the course of our history forever. because we are dancing on the head of a pin with what is a crumbling empire. Jen, don't put that shit up on the screen again. Sorry, Donald, but you're dead wrong. I'm not promoting him. If you don't recognize what's happening right now economically, starting with the fact that all precious metals are seeing a massive surge in their value, gold, silver, platinum, the debasing of the dollar is happening right now. BRICS is one part of it. Endless war is another. And we are living in beyond a gilded age when it comes to income inequality. The wealth is not spread around because the rich cheat the system. That's how it is. It is a class war, nothing more. And unless you can accept that reality, we're never going to change. The empire is breaking, so how do we find our way out of it? Well, recognizing how we must collaborate with others when it's called for. America First is going to have many different layers. And I am prepared to put myself out there as is needed in order to ensure that we do something about it. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm not afraid to lead. But I'm not the only one. This is not a one-person job. Frankly, this is all of our jobs. We're all responsible. We all have a role to play. Everyone who's here tonight has a role to play. If you're watching this channel, that means you care about the future of this country, hopefully as much as I do. And that is why when I talk about Candace Owens, it isn't because I ideologically line up with her. It's because she's using her platform in a way that no one else, minus maybe Tucker Carlson, is willing to do when it comes to addressing the heart of the problem with what the Charlie Kirk assassination represents. It represents an opening to break the Zio state. That's why we talk about it. Not because we're some sleuths, not because we fully have comprehended the entire up and down, inside and out storyline of what is going on here. We all have a role to play in ensuring that Palestine can be, must be, shall be free from the river to the sea. How do we do that? We have to continue to build momentum against the Zio state. And how do we do that? We expose those that are using their platform not for good, but for bad. And one of those people who decided to do just that is somebody who I know everyone has probably a very strong opinion about, and that, of course, is Alex Jones. Now, when it comes to Alex Jones, I just think he's playing a role. I think it's a joke. But when he is given the talking point that he has to go after Candace, because that's clearly what happened here, it's obvious what's going on. And I say that because there's another layer to the story. Much like Leslie Wexner with Jeffrey Epstein, well, there's another layer to why Alex Jones made this statement.
All right, it's Friday night. I'm driving home, shooting this quick report. I'm going to go back to the office in the morning with the crew and shoot a report with all the documents and things that Candace Owens is now saying. And obviously display it, but you can go to her X account and read it. So I said 2 weeks ago, I don't know if she's being misled or if she's got some type of, psychosis or whether she's just an evil person. But I've said on air in the last week or so, and I said on my show today, I said if she comes out with a news story to cover the last Huachuca story that fell apart, we know she's bad news. Just notice she said with the Egyptian planes when that fell apart that, she's going to publish all the details soon on the website. Yeah, I'm going to hold my breath. But with Fort Huachuca, this source, this famous con man who's been totally exposed, fake name, Mitch Snow, that it was the head of TP USA Security, Congressman Ahmadai, and then once he came on her show, and Erica Kirk was there too, 99% sure. And then she said on the air, this is no doubt the U.S. military, was involved in this killing. And she says, I never said that. Put the video today of her saying it.
So right off the bat, he has already proven that he's not willing to go where the story ultimately takes us. Now, whether or not there is any truth to what actually came out regarding the Egyptian planes, we know this much. Here are the indisputable facts about what happened that day, September 10th. We know for absolute certainty that they covered up the crime scene. We know for absolute certainty that there were Google searches into Tyler Robinson days before the event happened from Israel. We know that there was about a dozen, give or take, Mossad agents or those connected to the state of Israel that were at the event with Charlie Kirk in the stands. We know about Howard Zinn. Now, if you ask me, right off the bat, it does seem like there's something going on here that is not an open and shut case. Sometimes you have to throw a lot of things at the wall in order to make it stick. I know exactly what Candace is doing. She's making sure that the story does not leave the headlines. She's very good at what she does. So what would possess Alex Jones to have to come out and start making this statement? That's the big question.
Now she put out about 2 hours ago a post on X, a tweet, where she says, everyone's panicking. Everybody's scared. Another post hours before that, Alex Jones and all these other groups are scared after I brought up this plane. So the planes are back. Never said anything about a plane with like the undersecretary of defense on a border mission, going to all these border bases, and on the 8th flying into Fort Huachuca. So now it's all, who was on that plane? Who? So now it's a plane, not her expert that she thinks is totally credible, Mitch Snow, specifically saying all these people he saw when he just bumbles into this secure skiff area without an ID card. I mean, how stupid do you think we are, Candace? You keep changing the subject in a shell game, a bait and switch. No one ever said anything about a plane. You were Mitch at Fort Huachuca. And so now it's like some announcement from the Army. They're doing this border tour, going to all these facilities. That's what those people do. And then you're like, oh, and Mitch said it was this task force that was down there, and this is what the task force is. That is the task force down there on the border. I mean, it is just wild. And now all the new stuff coming out on Mitch and his real name and his whole history and his background. I mean, this is crazy.
Sorry, didn't even realize I was muted. Alex Jones was one of the first people. In fact, we played a clip of him from September 12th, 2001, where he immediately was suspecting that the Israelis were the ones behind 9/11. So the idea that His entire career, InfoWars, was built on this idea of questioning everything. And now all of a sudden, he's telling Candace Owens not to question anything. This is what happens when you get compromised. When, as Jen so eloquently puts it, Alex Jones flew way too close to the sun and he got burned severely by Sandy Hook. But he didn't want to give it up. So what did he do? Became an agent. Still has quite a platform. And a lot of people like to listen to him. And if he's as good as he thinks he is, he can still figure out a way to tiptoe around key issues, but making it very establishment friendly, which is exactly what he's doing here.
Absolutely crazy. And then Laura Loomer joins in, who was a guest on my show like 5 weeks ago about a Pentagon attempted coup against Hegseth that was confirmed. And then I talked to her off air and tell her, no, I don't think Tucker works for Qatar. And then she says, oh, I convinced him to go after her. Just jumping into this, you guys hang your hat on that. Oh, God, he's Mossad, all this bullshit. What do you expect me to do with your Egyptian plane thing and your Huachuca thing? I had to go investigate it. I'm like, God, this may be true. I better go look. And then it's total horse crap, and I get attacked for saying this isn't right, and you change the subject over and over again. Remember, I broke September 16th. From White House sources, the Kash Patel with Tulsi Gabbard and the vice president and others got in their face and said, I don't want to hear about foreign involvement, even though they had evidence, they said, and I don't want to hear about domestic accomplices. And I said, there's a cover-up then. And you guys build a straw man that I'm saying don't investigate, there's no cover-up. I believe there is a cover-up. My issue is you can't say that like a congressman has nothing to do with it is there, and then hope we forget about that, and then just say, oh, you were just asking questions. No, we have the clips of you saying, oh, this implicates the military. I can't see how they're not involved in his killing now. Just total craziness. And then it discredits the whole investigation. So this is just next level. So the fact that you didn't back off on the Mitch thing, you're still defending him and raising him $140,000. As far as I'm concerned, then you're just flat out evil. Flat out evil. And I do have to start asking, who are you working for? Is it Keir Starmer and the Brits?
We're glitching up a little bit here. Hang on one second. So I'm going to pull this clip, and I don't know why we're lagging as badly as we are, but I'm gonna reload it. So give me 1 second. Doesn't have a lot more to go, but I want to make sure that we do it right. Sometimes these things happen. You know, we're a small but mighty channel. We have to deal with the inevitable glitches that come with trying to run a channel of this size, trying to do it the big way. We're gonna get to Laura Loomer, don't worry.
All right, it's Friday night. I'm driving home, shooting this quick report. White House sources, the Kash Patel with Tulsi Gabbard and the vice president and others got in their face and said, I don't want to hear about foreign involvement, even though they had evidence, they said, and I don't want to hear about domestic accomplices. And I said, there's a cover-up then. And you guys build a straw man that I'm saying don't investigate, there's no cover-up. I believe there is a cover-up. My issue is you can't say that like a congressman has nothing to do with it is there, and then hope we forget about that, and then just say, oh, you were just asking questions. No, we have the clips of you saying, oh, this implicates the military. I can't see how they're not involved in his killing now. Just total craziness. And then it discredits the whole investigation. So this is just next level. So the fact that you didn't back off on the Mitch thing, you're still defending him and raising him $140,000. As far as I'm concerned, then you're just flat out evil. Flat out evil. And I do have to start asking, who are you working for? Is it Keir Starmer and the Brits trying to discredit Trump? We know they're launched all these domestic attacks, and Obama moved his shop over there to undermine the country. Is it the EU? I'm not going to say it's Qatar. I don't think that's it. Or you just, I mean, and like all your minions just constantly attack TPUSA, attack Trump. And the left all loves you now. You're boosted on YouTube. Everybody else is censored. You work for the Daily Wire Mossad operation. And that's really working for Mossad. That's who ran that, funded that Zionist. I never worked for those people. So, you know, this
Sure,
is
brother.
just absolutely crazy. And so I'm really ashamed of that I was ever associated with you. And I'm just wondering what new crap you're going to pull up next.
Well, Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones and me. Going on a bashing storm against Alex Jones, or against Candace Owens by Alex Jones. Alex Jones wants you to believe that there is no outside influence that could possibly have been involved with him making such a statement against Candace Owens, claiming that all of this is hogwash, that everything that he has put together is verifiable, and everything else that's coming from the likes of Candace Owens or any other conspiracy theorist doesn't know what they're talking about. Well, I think it's always impressive when somebody like Laura Loomer could come in and just put Alex Jones in his place, because we all know Loomer is doing this for the cash. And so grab it from Times. I'm going to share my screen here. Give me 1 second. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. She's my handler. Alex Jones clears air on Laura Loomer as Candace Owens controversy deepens across conservative media. Alex Jones has clearly denied Laura Loomer's claim that she's pushed him to investigate Candace Owens, saying he acted on his own and does not take direction from anyone. The media addressed the issue after Loomer publicly said she was responsible for making Jones see what she called Owens' malicious behavior. The dispute is tied to Owens' recent claims about the death of Charlie Kirk, which Jones has strongly pushed back on. As the situation grew louder online, Jones stepped in to clear the air. In a video shared on X on Christmas, he explained why he criticized Owens and why Loomer's attempt to take credit crossed the line. His comments added another layer to an already heated public fight involving unverified claims, personal accusations, and rising tension within conservative media circles. Now, I think it's safe to say that whatever this is, whatever the story is, there is no question that there is a blackmail operation, that there is a suppression of fact. And the biggest reason why I maintain that Candace is doing what she's doing is because they killed her friend. And this is personal for her. So she's willing to accept the consequences. Alex Jones is a compromised individual. Everyone knows that. And Laura Loomer, again, she has access to, that dimwit has access to the Pentagon, a person who has physically changed her appearance 9 million times. She's as fake inside as she is outside. She's as big a Zionist as it comes, and she is a deeply disturbed person. She's the type of person that would probably come after me. So I try to choose my words carefully with her, but she's a psychopath. So how's that for protecting my words? No. I'm going to bring this story full circle for all of you guys. The person in question, much like I pointed out earlier, Leslie Wexner being the man behind Jeffrey Epstein, Robert Shillman is the Zionist billionaire behind Laura Loomer, behind Alex Jones, behind Tommy Robinson. And he was behind Charlie Kirk until he wasn't. You see, Robert Shillman is the person that pulled out $2 million in funding just days before Charlie was removed. didn't like the direction that he was taking Turning Point USA. And the next thing you know, Charlie's gone. Yes, I know that the jokes write themselves. But the idea that a Zionist Jew billionaire and his last name is Shillman couldn't work out any better. He's funding these pro-Israel operatives to go after anybody who dares question the Zionist state's narrative. So when Alex Jones makes a video like this, it's easy to see why. You want that money? You want out of your troubles? Here is what we request of you. You have been summoned. Now do as you're told. And he's doing what he's told. And Laura Loomer is piggybacking on that as we speak. Not a surprise. Do I think that Loomer communicated directly with Alex Jones? Yeah, probably. There are no secrets with somebody like Laura Loomer. And the fact is, that's probably the last time that she'll ever have that conversation or a conversation with Alex Jones. But Alex Jones was revealed to be compromised by Laura Loomer, who clearly is compromised herself. They all stick together, don't they? Heck, even the Goyim are allowed in now. Am I right, Laura Loomer? When you wonder why Tommy Robinson is doing what he's doing, it's not hard to see why somebody as detestable as him gets away with what he has gotten away with. His star is fading for sure. But there's always somebody behind the curtains that is doing this. And Robert Shillman is an example of just that. We will cover him at greater length going forward. But make no mistake. As I said earlier, once you see it, you can't unsee it. When you get suspicious about what somebody's saying, you have reason to believe that it's coming from somewhere. And that is why, to take us home, leave it to Candace to explain why this is happening.
Charlie was betrayed by people that are close to him. And I asked that question in the meeting. I'm like, okay, if we can agree that everyone around, I was like, I know there are people at Turning Point, they're not good people, right? And it's feasible that people, if they have addictions, that they, you can definitively get yourself in a scenario where you are willing to sell somebody out. This is a massive organization. How can we so confidently state that nobody had anything to do with anything here? And I think that one of the things that Erica was like, well, I'm not like a feminist, and I didn't want the vibe of that, which I think it did come across like a bit of a feminist, to say like, this is all my family. I'm like, how could this all be your family? I know people in this family and they're not good people. I wouldn't even do that with my own family. Okay. I got people in my family, like we all do, who aren't exactly walking a straight arrow in life. And yeah, so I've communicated that. I have not changed my position on that. I am not going to stop researching the characters in this that I don't feel good about.
And I agree with Candace 1,000% on that. Why would you stop? Clearly, it's irritating the powers that be in a profound way. Now, I believe that Candace is probably protected by intelligence, just as I believe that about Tucker Carlson. But I believe that this story, probably as much as any, is the primary driver behind the dismantlement of the Zionist state, because a lot of people that are involved, especially the younger portion of the population that is involved in politics, is well aware of the clandestine operations of the Zionist state. And overwhelmingly, they are convinced that it was Israel that removed Charlie Kirk. So that's where the rubber meets the road. And to Candace's credit, despite everything that's being thrown at her by everybody pretty much, I'm sticking up for her because I can appreciate somebody who is going after the heart of the problem. When you are constantly being called a crazy person, when you are constantly being told that you're wrong, that can only mean one possible thing and only one possible scenario. She's getting way too close to the truth. And when you get way too close to the truth, people will get their marching orders from all sides, especially anyone who's on the corporate algorithm, anybody with anything to lose. They get their talking points, they stick to them, and lo and behold, you see everyone now pushing the Candace is a crazy person narrative. You know what that tells me? It tells me that she's right. Keep going, Max Candace. We may be a small but mighty channel, but we'll back you up. We have to dismantle the Zio state. And this is one of the key paths to finding out how to get it done. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Please make sure that you are subscribed. Please make sure that you are subscribed over on Rumble. We had close to 1,000 people at any one time watching this evening. If you guys are not currently subscribed over at Rumble, please make sure that you do, because at any time they could pull the rug out from under us here. Maybe they won't do it over at Rumble, but we certainly would appreciate if you guys would subscribe and share the stream and hit the like button. All of those components make a huge difference in our ability to continue to grow our channel. And of course, if you are not currently aware, we do have a pack, the Revolutionary Change Pack. So if you are not currently familiar with the pack, we hope that you will go check it out. So as you can see, whether it's over here or over here, I'm not quite sure, but one of these two places, there is a QR code. So take out your phones and just put it right up. It'll take you to our landing page for Revolutionary Change Pack. You want to help us defeat the Zio state? We're in control of this pack. And right now, we are supporting only two candidates. One, Butch Ware, who is running for governor of California on the Green Party ticket, and Shama Sawant, who is running for Congress in Washington's 9th district. On a being realistic about the circumstance, Shama Sawant absolutely 1,000% has a chance to unseat Adam Smith and become the independent congressional representative of Washington's 9th district. So if you would be so inclined, give it a look-see, and we really appreciate your support. For the final time this evening, please also consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. We recently passed 103,000 subscribers. So as you can imagine, we are slowly but steadily climbing up the mountain. Yes, Jen, could you post that, please? Just Revolutionary Change on Rumble. That's our channel. And of course, you can support the Patreon there. All of that really makes a huge difference. We also want to get to our super chatters, of which we've had several more since we got into the second half of our stream. Bad Sean, Knight of Gotham, thank you very, very much for the $20 super chat. In response to the anti-Semitic posters of 2025, it's time to call out all anti-Muslim bigotry and anti-human rights, every single one of them. We respond to hate by going bigger, strength, and unity. No intimidation will silence us. Badshaw, couldn't agree with you more. You know we have your back, and we really appreciate your generosity. Thank you very, very much. Libertarian Social Democrat with the $1.99. You think Fishback can defeat Donalds for governor? I believe you're referring to the gentleman who is running for governor of Florida in the GOP primary that does not support the Zio state. Hey, listen, the primary election is at the end of August. He definitely has some time, depending on how well he's able to fundraise, to create some momentum. And I think anybody who speaks out against the state of Israel, even if he can't win, it's going to be a good watershed moment here in the state of Florida, because this is Zio hell for so many people, including Jen, who lives in the heart of it in Southeast Florida. So we'll see what happens, but we certainly hope for the best with Fishback. Libertarian Social Dem with the $4.99. If the right is okay with vouchers to fund private schools, they should be okay with single payer, which both have the same end result. Hey, man, it's all about how you frame it. It's all about how you explain it. I agree. Mike, Fishback is an Israel plant. Then maybe it's somebody else that I'm pretty sure it's Fishback. Again, make statements like that, back it up. Don't just throw, again, that's like throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks. If he's an Israel plant, please explain how. Mike with the $5. Fuentes, a disrupted use him for that. Also known as Joe Kent, now Vivek in Ohio, maybe Donald's too. Seems to coincide with influence you may be striving for. I feel like that's like a jumbled statement that you threw out there, Mike. I can't really say one way or the other. We are dealing with a lot of chaos agents right now. There's no two ways about it. But thank you for your support nonetheless. Ivory Tart gifting the 5 Revolutionary Change memberships. Thank you very, very much. And always love to see the pooch. Hassan Pfeiffer. Not exactly Piker, but close enough. Hassan Pfeiffer becoming a YouTube member. Thank you very, very much. Judith Ann Campbell with the $10. Thank you for reaching across the divide and finding common ground. Fuentes reminds me of Joffrey from Game of Thrones. We need to reach his followers. Don't hate me. I have not seen a single episode of Game of Thrones, but I'll take your word for it. Carson Cruz with the $10. The influence Zionism has had on the U.S. is simply heartbreaking. No moral high ground left. That is correct. That's the way it's been, but that's not the way it's always going to be. So it is incumbent upon us to change that narrative, and we're changing it every day. And this channel is playing a small role in just that. Tall Chicken Vegas, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas and hope you have a wonderful New Year as well. Lemon Lou with the $5. Keep up the good work, Peter, and keep pressure on the Zio state. That's what we're here to do, my friend. Thank you for your support. Very, very much appreciated. JB with the $2. Brilliant show, beautiful and growing platform. Thank you, my friend. Really appreciate it. Medio with the $4.99. Hey, Peter, have you watched the videos I sent you about the Bondi shooters obtaining their weapons legally? Rachel, if you're seeing this, I know you may have received emails from Medi. If you can forward them to me, please do. I haven't had the chance to in the past 2 days, but I will definitely take a look at them. And I really appreciate you sending that over. Thank you very much. So with that said, we hope you guys have enjoyed this show. Here is the link to our Rumble channel. Please make sure that you subscribe over there. We need as many subscribers on all platforms as possible. Again, the end goal is to spread the word. That's what we're trying to do. And I hope, despite maybe some differences and some disagreements, that you guys see the value in what we're trying to do here. Perry Warish with the $5. Right now, the left-right political system, Democrats versus Republicans, seems deliberately designed to keep people divided. I couldn't agree more, Perry. But this is what's been going on forever. People are now just happening to wake up to that reality. Better late than ever. We're just glad that we're finally seeing a revolutionary-like change. Generational change to start, but revolutionary is what's happening now. Hamburger, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for the $5. How can I find out if I am a Zionist? I used to run around with neocons after 9/11, and I'm afraid I might have caught something. Well, here's what I can tell you. Just look at Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is somebody who has substantially changed his ways over the past probably 2 years, to be honest. I mean, he was always changing. He's always had a very strong libertarian streak, especially after the WMD lie back in 2003, 2004. He initially supported the war in Iraq, but in the mid 2000s, he changed his tune, and he's been changing it ever so much ever since. But now it's like he's a world beater, a total populist, and slightly to the left on certain issues. Hey, we can all have our come to Jesus moments, and maybe that's what's happening for you, my friend. We can right the wrongs of the past, for the future is all we've got. So, happy to have you in this fight. Constance with the $2. If you had to pick one handler, Loomer or Barry, I mean, I understand that a bullet to the head is probably more reasonable, but if I am truly stuck with having to pick one of the two, I'm going to pick Barry simply because I don't think she would stab me to death while I sleep, and she is actually somewhat smart compared to somebody like Loomer. So if I had no choice, that's what I would be stuck with. If you haven't already, one more time, patreon.com/revolutionary change and the QR code for the Revolutionary Change Pack. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that we ask you to do. We appreciate you all. We love you all. We will see you Monday, and free Palestine. Good night, guys.